Hello friend, welcome back. Today we're going to be looking at a project breakdown of a project that I shot actually a few months back. And the reason why I wanted to look at this was just how simple it was. We were only running 2 lights and utilizing some natural light for kind of this corporate interview setup. And some setups I've shown on this channel are a lot more complex. There's a lot more lights going on. And I want to make videos like this just to remind people that you don't need that. I was still really happy with the look that we got. It was quick, it was efficient, it served the project well, and I wanted to take a look at it here today. So I don't have the most BTS. I have some iPhone photos. My friend John took a little bit of BTS that day, so hopefully you guys can get the context. When it came to cameras, we were running the Fujifilm X-T5 on the A cam and then the X-H2S actually as the B cam. Don't ask me why, I just wanted to try that out on this specific shoot. Lenses wise, we were running the Sigma Art 18-35 like normal, and then the Tamron 17-70 on the B cam. Once we got our 2 cameras set up and we were liking how things were looking, we needed to add a little bit more to the frame, so we actually grabbed this plant from the hallway and moved it to cover some outlets that were kind of distracting on the side of the frame, and this just added a little bit of visual interest and texture as well. And the funny thing, this plant actually looked terrible, but my friend John actually took some zip ties and zip tied the plant so it was standing more straight up, and I really loved how it looked, and I've actually done that on a few shoots since this one. Now that we found our frame, we moved on to lighting, and so for our key light, we had the Nanlite FS300B in a 38-inch softbox. This was just kind of 45 degrees off to the side, and we only had to run this at about 5% because we were shooting in f/log2 on both cameras with the high base ISO of 1000 and 1250, so we only needed 5% to really get the punch that we needed. From there, the only other light that we had was a 2-foot pavo tube, actually super clamped to this little ledge that was hanging down from the ceiling. There's sort of a drop ceiling type of situation in this conference room, and this was a perfect spot to hide a tube light, gave us a little bit of a backlight and edge light to separate our subject from the background. And then for power, we actually set a V-mount battery up there on the ledge and ran a USB-C cable into the pavo tube, so we just didn't have to worry about battery. And that is pretty much it. We ran 4 interviews with this exact setup, and I was really happy with how the final images turned out. Again, f/log2, I'll show you guys some before and after of what it looked like straight into camera, and then what it looked like after the grade. I think I was overexposing quite a bit on this one intentionally because we weren't dealing with windows or anything that was going to clip. These interviews were part of a larger project, so we also got a shot of this laptop, kind of a clean plate of sorts where we could superimpose some video calls onto it. I wanted contextually it to make sense with these interviews. You could still see the blue wall, you could still see the plaques, and it provided us some flexibility in shrinking down the zoom calls in the frame so that they would look less pixelated, and overall they would just match the vibe of the project more. And so because this video is kind of all about simple lighting, today's talking head setup is also very simple, only features 2 lights. Suray actually sent over their inflatable kind of balloon light. I think it's the A200R. It's the RGB one, the 2-foot by 2-foot kind of panel style light. And then they also sent over their new CX150, which is an 150 watt light that is pocket sized, very similar to the Zhiyun Molis X100 that I've talked about previously here on the channel. So for this setup, I actually have the A200R outside my door. This actually isn't a window. There's some curtains that cover the glass on my door, but I wanted this to kind of be in the frame where it appears to be a window, gives the rest of our lighting motivation. And so I think I have this just around like 75% kind of blasting through this window, and that is what is lighting up that side of the frame. From there, I rigged the C150X to a little magic arm up here on the curtain rod. This is then giving me backlight, but it is also bouncing into this large 5-in-1 reflector bounce, and is actually acting as our key light as well. And so I feel like this way of lighting is very similar to how you would approach lighting something outdoors with the sun. You would want to try to backlight your subject with the sun, but then use a bounce to kind of fill in and give soft light to your subject's face. Overall, I really like using both of these lights. My panel light of choice was the Falconize RX18 TD because it's super cheap, and it actually broke on me several months back. I was just using it in my garage on a little personal project, and it just stopped working. So since then, I have not had a panel light. There's been several projects where I've kind of wished that I've had one, and I've had to get creative. So when Suray was able to send this over, I was really excited to check it out. I think I'm not crazy about the inflatable design because although it's quick and saves a lot of time with setup, it definitely is loud. Every time you turn it on, you have to wait for it to inflate and then click the button to turn on the light. When it comes to my use cases for a light like this, I'm typically not pulling for it as a key light because I usually need to add another layer of diffusion because it's not soft enough as is. So I think it's really versatile for kind of smaller spaces, or if you're needing to boom something out overhead. I've used them very often on music videos in the past. And so having the RGB option with this one and it being a 200 watt light got me really excited. The C150X is very similar to the Zhiyun Molis X100, really small lights. A lot of companies are starting to make these. I think the nice part about this one is the price point. It's only $180, and I like that you can plug in a V-mount via a D-tap cable that they included. Makes it really easy to power it. That's how I'm powering it in this shot. My main issue with lights that are this small is when they still have the really cumbersome power box, and it kind of defeats the purpose of having a really small light if you have to find a way to then rig a large power box somewhere. I wish that there was just one cable that you could run, and that's where, like, for me, I have to kind of decide, okay, do I want to have lights like this in my kit, or would I prefer something with less output like the Nanlite FS60B? It's a really small, lightweight light. Often I'm only needing kind of 60 watts out of it because I'm using it as a backlight or rigging it somewhere, or just using it as a little bit of fill. And this one, it's a really small light, a little bit bigger than the C150X, but it features no big power brick. So when it comes to rigging it, mounting at different places, I don't really have to think about that. While neither of these lights I would have purchased with my own money, I think they are super solid. The main reason why is just because I like to have all my lights on one system. All my other lights are Nanlite. I think they make really great budget-friendly lights. And when you start mixing brands, getting a bunch of different fixtures, it just gets really complicated when you are on set with a small crew trying to make those changes. It's crazy to think that my first light was the Godox SL60W. I had to control it with a physical remote, and it was only 60 watts. And seeing now that there's these little, 150 watt lights that are super compact, that you can control with an app, that are bi-color, that you can power off of V-mount batteries. It's crazy. It's really cool to see the way lighting technology has continued to grow. So don't discount, these lights just because I'm saying I might not buy them. It is crazy to see the technology, and at these budget price points, there's a ton of exciting options. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you found this kind of simple lighting breakdown helpful, as well as seeing some other lights used in kind of a talking head concept. Please let me know any questions you have down below, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.